Yesterday, President Joe Biden was caught on a hot mic calling a Fox News reporter dumb.
Will you take questions on inflation then?
Let's move. Thank you. Thank you
Do you
all.
think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
Okay, that's funny. Come on, that's funny. For one, it's a dumb question. Do you think inflation is going to help your re-election chances or going to help your political chances in the midterms? No, what kind of question is that? That's a stupid question. What's wrong with you? Of course it doesn't help. What is wrong with you? And look, here's the thing. Everybody's hitting him over that. Obviously, Fox News, I mean, look, Fox News, before that question, which, by the way, they have immediately made that like the number one thing. Oh, I can't believe he's going after reporters like that. Oh, my God. Ah! But before that, they were constantly hitting him on, oh, inflation, Bidenflation. Like, it's trending on Twitter. Bidenflation. Biden is the sole, perpetrator of the reason, and the reason that we have so much inflation. No. Now, here's the thing, though. I don't have any problem with Fox News using that as a political, talking point. It's not true. It's factually inaccurate. But hey, if you want to use that, go ahead and use that. That's fine. That's criticism. That's commentary, whatever. Let me just say that, again, it's not the fault of the president when it comes to inflation. It doesn't matter what party it comes from. It doesn't matter if it happened under Donald Trump or George W. Bush or Obama or Joe Biden. It's not necessarily their fault. There's a combination of different factors here that come into play when it comes to inflation. For example, the markets. Again, corporate greed. In this case, definitely corporate greed. Because here you have companies that receive billions of dollars in taxpayer money from these bailouts, from these corporate bills that were there to help them during the coronavirus pandemic, right? And so now these companies, they got billions of dollars, and a lot of them bought back their own stocks and ended up keeping the money anyway. Now, some of them had to return the money, but a lot of them ended up keeping the money anyway. And that's after, again, juicing their own stock portfolios and their own returns. And so, all right, gigantic amounts of corporate welfare, okay? Now, that said, they raise their prices. Are there supply chain concerns that might cause a little bit of inflation? Yes, that's true. There are supply chain issues, and that is something that Biden can do something about and has actually tried to do something about. So fair enough, right? So they're actually trying to make an effort to this. Nonetheless, you also have companies that are taking advantage of the situation and raising prices far more than they would, and far more than the costs that they had incurred from some of these, natural issues that would cause price increases for them to go up. And so you understand, right? They basically, and it's gotten so bad that they have wiped out what modest wage increases happened over the last few years. And so Americans are actually worse off now as a result of all this corporate greed than they were during the Trump administration. Fascinating how that works out, right? And so now, understandably, Fox News is going to jump all over it, and that's going to play very badly with people in the midterms. Okay, so again, if you want to point that out, that's fair. Totally fair. Now, let's get to the controversy. There's controversy here. So now, was President Biden, was he wrong for saying that? Was he unduly, unfairly attacking members of the press? Was he doing exactly what Donald Trump had done? Well, there are some members of the press that certainly believe so. In fact, here's CNN's Brian Stelter.
You see the smile on Biden's face. I don't think he's surprised this was caught on mic. I think he knows what he was doing. But no matter who the president is, whether it was Donald Trump saying Chuck Todd was an SOB, or whether it's President Biden saying Peter Doocy is an SOB, it's wrong no matter what. The easiest thing to do in life is to be consistent, regardless of party, regardless of president, and just recognize when something is wrong. Recognize that the president should be held to the highest standards. And so in this case, Biden was out of line. I think he knew it because he called call Doocy right away to say sorry and try to put it as water under the bridge. It's also not the biggest story in the world, though, right? Well, that's why I'm glad you didn't lead with it. It's not the most important thing in the world. We know Fox is going to milk it as if it is the most important thing in the world. It's one of these minor, interesting moments that shows how the president really feels.
Now look, is Fox News milking it? Yes. No, they absolutely are. Of course they are. But look, I got 2 points here. Is it the most important thing in the world? No, obviously not. Of course not. But number 2, I disagree with Brian Stelter in the fact that, that's wrong. And it's just like what Trump was doing. And we're just being consistent here. No, this is CNN being infuriatingly neutral for neutrality's sake. Oh, everything's the same. Donald Trump calls the press the Lügenpresse, which means lying press in German. It's what the Nazis used to say. And Biden just happened to call a Fox News reporter that yelled out an incredibly stupid question a dumbass, essentially. Or a dumb son of a bitch. That's what it was. No, come on. That's not the same. That's not comparable to what Donald Trump had said. But here's the thing. So, as so many people have already pointed out, Joe Biden isn't anywhere near as hostile to the press as Donald Trump has been. Biden, for example, hasn't tried to ban Fox News from the press room. He hasn't banned anyone from the press room. I believe you still have, Newsmax reporters that are still there? What's Newsmax doing in the room? I mean, come on. Come on. All right, so now, that said, he also doesn't call any outlet fake news, especially Fox News or Newsmax or OAN. Doesn't call the press the enemy of the people. Doesn't encourage violence against the so-called fake news media, which, by the way, has encouraged conservative supporters to also do violence against the media. In fact, let me give you some statistic here. This is according to Reporters Without Borders. During the George Floyd protests alone, there were 68 different incidents documented of attacks by police and what some would consider to be protesters. Maybe they were protesters, maybe they were opportunists, or maybe they were even, again, right-wingers that were there, counter-protesters. But all of them went against journalists that were covering the protests. They'd been shot by rubber bullets by police, pepper balls. They'd been exposed to tear gas, pepper spray, beaten, threatened, intimidated, had their news vehicles vandalized when they were simply reporting on the job. So, look, Trump helped encourage some of that and allowed the police to do that. And so, again, there are numerous examples of Trump trying to make an enemy out of the reporters. But not just reporters, by the way. Trump was also against the entire idea of the free press. Way, way different than what we have here. Way, way different. Okay? In fact, calling one reporter out for a stupid, dumb question is not the same thing as going after the entire idea of a free press and trying to clamp down on it. So now you can tell that it's not the same, and not even Peter Doocy believes that it's the same, despite, of course, Fox News flipping out over it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Doocy's own reaction to this. Here's what he said on Hannity show.
Within about an hour of that exchange, he called my cell phone, and he said, "It's nothing personal, pal." And we went back and forth, and we were talking about just kind of moving forward. And I made sure to tell him that I'm always going to try to ask something different than what everybody else is asking. And he said, "You've got to." He cleared the air, and I appreciated it. We had a nice call.
That's not an answer. Did he apologize? That doesn't sound like an apology.
He said, "It's nothing personal, pal."
Oh,
and I
pal.
told him that I appreciated him reaching out. Hey, Sean, the world is on the brink of like World War III right now
I get
with
it.
all this stuff going on. I appreciate that the president took a couple minutes out this evening while he was still at the desk to give me a call and clear the air.
At least he called you pal.
But you know what? I don't need anybody to apologize to me. He can call me whatever he wants.
Well, I mean, there it is. Now, look, again, other Fox News hosts are freaking out over this, and so is corporate media. They all need to back off. Back off a little bit, all right? Stop doing comparisons to Donald Trump and his attacks in the press, which were actually bad. And again, let me just ask this question, pose this, right? Who hasn't, in their dealings with Fox News, wanted to call one of their reporters or hosts dumb? A lot of us probably. Come on, be honest.